I must say I'm in love with the lemon starter. It does take several days to make, but compared to the classic wheat starter, it's stronger and it keeps the bread moist longer. This is how I make the lemon starter. To begin with, I use a regular supermarket lemon. Just rinse it under the tap water and dry it with a towel. Cut several slices of lemon, then further cut into several wedges. Weigh 75 grams of wedges into a sanitized jar, add 75 grams of room temperature water, then add 10 grams of corn syrup or honey or white sugar, then finish with another 75 grams of water. Stir to dissolve the syrup and mix in the air, then seal it. The starting pH is measured at 3.08. The appropriate temperature for fermentation is between 25 to 28 degrees Celsius. I have a proofing machine at home, and I usually set it at 25 degrees Celsius with a 75% humidity. However, I learned some people even succeeded at a temperature as low as 17 to 18 degrees. So the proofing machine is not the key. After that, the job's easy. You only need to stir the mixture every 12 hours. The purpose is to mix in as much oxygen as possible to facilitate aerobic fermentation. This stirring is after 24 hours already. I tested the pH and it shows 2.25, higher than yesterday. You can see the liquid is turning yellower, but it's still quite clear, like regular lemon water. Seems not much is happening here. Fermentation conditions remain the same. After another stirring and in yet another 4 hours, I noticed there are some tiny bubbles forming around the wedges. It seems the bacteria inside is quite happy, and that makes me happy. Alright, back to the machine. This is day 3. There are obviously more bubbles, and unlike 8 hours ago, they become bigger and livelier. Let's take a close look. The speaker may not be able to pick up the sound, but I can hear it is making some faint sizzling noises. And it starts to smell somewhat like sparkling lemon water. When stirring, the liquid releases quite some bubbles. It starts to get fun now. The pH indicates 3.33, a little higher than yesterday. Tighten the lid and put it back in the proofing machine. 12 hours later, I feel like the bubbles have become bigger and there are tons of tiny bubbles being active as well, almost like soda water. Also, the liquid seems more turbid. What a lovely microorganisms world. Can you hear that? The sizzling. It sounds like busy but happy music to my ear, and I can see bubbles rising to the top, kind of like fish spitting out bubbles in a pond. Stirring causes drama. Even a light touch causes lots of carbon dioxide to escape. Give it a good stir while reintroduce oxygen into the mixture so that the lactobacillus will continue fermenting. After stirring, most of the bubbles have disappeared and the liquid has become quite turbid. Another 12 hours later, and this is day 4 now. The bubbles are back, and there are even more on the wedges than yesterday. However, there seems no frenetic tiny bubbles anymore. Let's open the lid to take a look. Wow, it's more exciting than yesterday. Listen. It's like curing music. Noisy, loud, but surprisingly soothing. The bacteria is definitely more active now, and when days go by, it smells something more like in between spirited lemon water and wine. I must say I love the stirring the most. Hearing all the noisy bubbles is oddly pleasing. It looks like the batch is about to reach its prime. The pH today is 3.34, about the same as yesterday. I think the sugar has almost been all broken down now, and the batch can be ready anytime. Another 12 hours later, I haven't measured, so can only judge by the naked eye, but I feel the bubbles are even bigger and more static. I mean, no such fish spitting out bubble effect. Also, when opening the lid, there is no dramatic sizzling music anymore. I forgot to test the pH this time, but all the signs are telling me I can't wait any longer. So give it a last stir and pass it through a sieve. Press the wedges a little to maximize the yield. The wedges will be discarded, and the liquid is the key. Now it's time to feed the lemon liquid. I use 40 grams of the lemon liquid and an equal amount of bread flour and corn syrup to give it a boost. My kitchen temperature is about 21 degrees at the time of making. Lemon starter is very strong and not as temperature sensitive as wheat starter. So I just keep all my ingredients at room temperature. Add all ingredients together, mix vigorously, then transfer to a container. Proof at 25 degrees Celsius and 70 to 75% humidity. After 6 hours, the starter has grown about 4 times. Usually, I'd feed it at least 3 times before using. The first feed has the strongest lemon flavor that will decrease after each feed, but the starter will be more stabilized. For the second feed, since it's midnight, I decide to feed it by a 1:2:2 ratio, of which starter, water, and flour are weighed at 30, 60, and 60 grams each. After 10 hours, it has grown about 4 times. This batch still keeps lemony flavor. Before using, I usually feed it again, leaving 60 grams of starter in a jar and feeding it by a 1:1:1 ratio. This is after 4 hours. It has been about quadrupled. In the past, I experimented with a 4-time feeding schedule, and the result was similar. I conclude a 4-time growth is the maximum strength of my starter, which allows after being fed 3 to 4 times. Regarding how to use the starter, it is the same as wheat starter. But as I said, lemon starter is stronger than wheat starter, so it's easier to manage, or not manage the dough temperature in a relatively colder room. My kitchen temperature at the time being is between 20 to 21 degrees Celsius, and I keep all ingredients at room temperature. After releasing 280 grams of flour and 210 grams of water for an hour, I add 84 grams of the matured starter. The process is all the same as making the wheat starter sourdough bread. The dough temperature, as you see, is about 21 degrees Celsius. Normally for a wheat starter dough, you would expect the temperature to be at least 24 degrees. After the first relaxation, add 5.9 grams of sea salt. Regarding the rest, just follow the procedure you usually do with a wheat starter dough. The proofing condition again is 25 degrees and 75% humidity. From adding the starter to final shaping, it took me about 6 hours. If your proofing temperature is higher or lower, the time will vary, so do keep an eye on your dough. This time, I decided to shape it into a buell, but feel free to shape it into a petard, as I think it provides a more beautiful crown. After shaping, first let it relax in the proofing machine for 30 minutes, and then proof in the refrigerator for 12 hours or till it's ready. The next day, preheat a Dutch oven at 250 degrees Celsius for at least 30 minutes, then squirt the dough, place it into the Dutch oven with the lid on, and bake at the same temperature for 20 minutes. Then take the lid off, lower the temperature to 230 degrees Celsius, and continue baking for 10 minutes. Then take the bread out and continue baking for another 10 to 15 minutes till it reaches the ideal color you prefer. One thing I must say is if you expect a lemon flavor out of the bread, you'll be disappointed. It has a slightly tangy flavor, though many conditions affect the tanginess, so I can't conclude whether it's a unique feature of the lemon starter or because of the way the bread is made. One thing I conclude is bread made with lemon starter doesn't get dry as fast as one made with wheat starter. Also, it wastes less flour, which I highly appreciate at times when flour is not easily around. To maintain a starter, I use 20 grams of the matured starter, 20 grams of water, and 20 grams of bread flour. Place it in the refrigerator and feed it every 3 days or whenever it reaches its peak. For the remaining proofed lemon liquid, place it in the refrigerator. Use within a month. Have fun making the starter, and I'll see you next time.